Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Take the Lead podcast. I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing this journey has been for me. And I am so grateful for all of the feedback and for everyone who has expressed that it has been a blessing to you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are in the last episode of season 1, and I am super duper proud of what we have accomplished throughout this season. We've talked about some of everything: self-esteem and dating, facing your greatest fears. We've covered so much ground over the past 10 weeks that I look back and think we have something really good that we could share with other young adults that may be going through some of the things that we've experienced, or even if we haven't experienced it, we have kind of like a bank of resources that we could share with someone. So, welcome to the season finale. This one will probably be a little bit longer than others because, it's the season finale. We got to go out with a bang. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, thank you for landing on this podcast, and I pray that it is a blessing to you. I am Gia Roberts, your host. I am a licensed minister, an educational leader, author, entrepreneur, and I am founder and president of this amazing organization called LifestyleoftheBeliever, where our focus is to motivate, empower, and inspire young adults to realize their purpose and potential in Christ. I am also a self-proclaimed young adult aficionado. I love everything about young adults, and it is part of my life's work. I am also the author of Take the Lead, a survival guide for young adult Christians, which is what we're talking about in this entire podcast. And today we are on the final chapter, and this chapter is about giving back. Giving back, super duper important. You probably haven't even thought about how important giving back is as a young adult. So we're going to hit that, and hopefully you'll have something that you can put in your young adult toolbox. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's jump right on into this content. So I'm sure that we've all heard the saying that to whom much is given, much is required. And there's a lot of truth to that. Given a lot of stuff, maybe you need to give back a lot of stuff from your wealth and what you have. And so in that sense, I want us to rethink what the value is or what our wealth is. Because in the same token that to whom much is given, much is required in terms of possessions and things that you own, it also has to do with your experiences that you've had. To whom much is given, much is required. And a lot of times we don't look at our experiences as wealth. We don't look at the things that we've gone through as wealth. But I am here today to tell you that they are very much so part of your wealth, part of your bank account of things that you can withdraw in the times of need. So because you have experienced so much, because you have gone through so much, you have a lot of wealth that you can share with the world, that you can use to uplift someone. I've even said it in a previous podcast that nothing that you have experienced is for naught. God is not going to allow not even a crumb to fall on the ground and go to waste. I think of it like this. The other day, I made some really, really delicious banana nut bread, and these guys tore it up. I grabbed my spatula when I was getting ready to take it out of the bowl and put it into the pan, and I scraped along the edges of the bowl, and I made sure that I got all of the batter, as much of the batter as I possibly could, out of the bowl into the pan. And then a little somebody came along and said, "Mommy, can I have the spatula and can I have the bowl?" And he finished off whatever was left of that batter in the bowl. And I'm telling you, it was clean to the clean, clean, clean. I want you to picture that. And that is what I want you to think of your experiences. Bad or good, whatever it is, those are the things that you are going to add to your wealth bank account so that you can use that to bless somebody. Nothing is going to go to waste. I don't know how many times, and those of you who know me, and you've heard me say before that when I was 14 years old, my mom passed away, and I had to grow up for the most part. Even before that, my mom was not in an active part of my life for a few years before she passed away. Long story short, I lost my mom at 14 and had to grow up and go through a lot of the young lady stuff and the feminine stuff, and I had to do that without her. And I cannot tell you how many times I have had to use my personal story to pull a young person out of the pit of despair and out of the pit of why me situations, and had to use the look at me now, and not as, I'm all high and mighty, but look at where I was, and the fact that I was where you are. And so that is something that is so powerful that I never thought that God would use that. And there were so many times when I'm like, why am I the one who had to lose my mother? Why am I the one? And God turned it around and he used it for his good. So no matter what it is, whether you lost a parent, some of you may have been molested. Some of you may have been homeless. Some of you may have dropped out of school. Some of you may have gone into really bad relationships. God did not allow you to go through that to cause anything to go to waste. Let him use that for his glory, even the embarrassing stuff. You want to be careful about your audience, but definitely let him use it. To whom much is given, in terms of your experiences, much. Some of you have even dealt with some of the very things that we've talked about and shared about in this podcast over the past, dated some really, really ugly people on the inside, and God has seen you through it. You never thought you would have recovered. Some of you have fallen in love. And listen, a young adult needs to hear that. Some of you have gone through the phase where you didn't know where your life was going because you couldn't figure things out. And it seems like everybody else was getting married. Everybody else was having children. Everybody else was going to school and graduating with their degrees and moving on and doing wonderful things. And you were in a depressed state and God saw you through. Somebody needs to hear that. Somebody's dealing with low self-esteem and low self-worth and low self-image, all of these things that God has picked you up, pulled you out of these places and given you a fresh start, a new lease, and even given you the tools that you needed so that you can live through that and go through that. Some of you have dropped out of school and everybody just thought your future was done. And look at what God has done. To whom much is given, much is required. I heard a testimony from somebody who was saying, I was not a good student. I was failing. I was struggling in school and just did not think, because the focus on education and the focus on a higher education through college was such a big deal during the time when they went to school, that they just thought there was no hope for them. And they knew that they didn't want to do anything that was illegal and that kind of thing. And they landed upon a vocation and a trade, and just God made a way. And I'm here to tell you that God has given you a door and an opportunity to get out of your bad situation, to get out of the bad relationship and the bad decisions. And he has taken you off of drugs and caused you to not be addicted to alcohol. And I know this is not the beautiful, pretty stuff that we're used to, but God has done great things in our lives. And you have to break the cycle. This is how we break the cycle. This is how we stop someone from going down the road and going into the rabbit hole that we went into. To whom much is given, much is required. You may never tell your story in front of a large audience of 5,000 people. You may never want to, but God will open up a door for you to meet somebody that needs to hear your story, and you will know when it's time. You will know, you will have the prick in your heart that you will feel like the compulsion. You will just feel like this is it. This is the time. This is where God is going to use this experience, this story in my life for his honor and for his glory. And you may never know the benefit of your story until later on. I have another example of to whom much is given, much is required. And that has to do with the fact that, we learn as a kid growing up, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he did what? Come on. He gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Two things that are the foundation of our faith is love and giving. For God so loved that he gave. For God so loved that he gave. He saw the need and he gave. He saw the need and he gave. And so for us, we have to give as a part of our duty and responsibility as Christians. Imagine if for God so loved the world that he felt bad in his heart, and that was the end of the story. Imagine if for God so loved the world that he went and talked to somebody about how bad he felt. Or imagine that for God so loved the world that he just imagined something different. No, for God so loved the world that he gave. He gave. And we as Christians have to give. And there's so many ways to give. If you don't know where to start with your giving, ask God for direction. Let him lead your giving. And if we're very, very honest, God speaks to our hearts. It's not always going to be you're in a church service and the speaker or whomever is I'm asking you to give, will ask you to give something and then your heart will pour out and then you'll give. That does happen. However, there are times when no one to give. And in those moments, it's always good to give because you definitely have something to give. You have an offering that you can give. You have a service that you can give. You have a talent. You have a skill. You have an ability, something that no one else has. No one else may be able to usher like you. No one else may be able to work a sound booth like you. No one else may be able to moderate like you. No one else may be able to welcome people like you. There are certain things that you can do, and that's giving. And so don't hide your gift and your talent, but go ahead and use it for his honor and for his glory. Another way that you can give is financially. We talked about that, but we don't want to skirt over that like that's not a big deal. Like you can give of your finances, you could give of your tithe, and you could give of your offering, and you can also give to organizations and causes that are near and dear to your heart. You can give of your time. You can give of your love. You can give in your community. You can give a listening ear. Find things that you can do that will be a blessing to the body of Christ. To whom much is given, much is required, but you have to give back. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. This is the final episode in season 1 of the Take the Lead podcast. I pray that it was a blessing to you. Go ahead and follow us on social media. Please go to Facebook. We're Lifestyle of the Believer on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our website is lifestyleofthebeliever.org. And we have our YouTube channel, also YouTube/Lifestyle of the Believer. So you have lots of ways that you can reach us and to keep in touch. While you're on our website, though, I invite you to sign up for our mailing list so that when we have events and activities and conferences, you can be one of the first ones to know. And I'm also inviting you to follow me personally if you'd like at ghroberts.com, or you can find me on Facebook as GG Roberts. So that's all the time we have for now. I love you, I mean it, and we will see you on the flip side.